because I get it, you know. But I mean, I don't think it's no shame in your game if you're doing what you like, what you do.
Well, here's the thing too. I think you need to understand. This is something like just talking to Brooke that I'm going like, man, I just can't wrap my head around this, sometimes. But her stars aren't on TV. They're not in the movies.
No,
they're
exactly.
on YouTube.
That's right.
So that could be a good thing, what you're saying,
as
much as it is a negative.
Well,
it just all depends on how good you are at YouTube.
Yeah, but if you take, and that's what I've tried to explain to Adam is that, take how many people there are in the world. How many do you actually need supporting you to actually support your cause? It's a very minute percent. So you really don't have to be a superstar. You can just be a star. I mean, you can, to those people, you're just, what I'm saying to say, it's basically like, I don't know, it's like any other craft. If you sell enough of your craft to support your lifestyle, and then the more of your craft that you sell, you can up your lifestyle if you want to, or you can just, live like me.
Which I think is a really good segue into this podcast. And Bill, it's good to see you, man.
Thank you very much.
I know I just saw you last week
Yes.
over at the salon.
Yep.
I want to thanks for coming out. This is my first podcast to talk about small business owners and people who have started a business. I think there's a lot of stories there, especially for people who may be interested in starting a business. I was just in Owensboro, Kentucky this last weekend, in a really neat little town. And, I'm from Kentucky, and I've never really thought about Owensboro a whole lot, but I was at a convention there on the riverfront, and they have a really nice little downtown, but I've noticed a lot of empty buildings, a lot of empty downtown space. And I remember getting in a conversation with someone there just about how hard it is to start a business, especially today, because so much out there is either controlled by, bigger investment firms they obviously have more access to capital. And just, if you're just starting on your own, or say you're into something like a hobby, it's just really kind of hard to get a business going. And, you've been at this for a while now. And, I just wanted to get your story. Honestly, I don't think I've ever even really I don't think I've ever asked you how you got into what you're doing. And just for those who are listening, the Bill here he does quite a bit. He's a longtime hairstylist here in the Nashville area. And he also has his own hair extension line. And when he's not doing all that, he manages a country music artist. And that's a lot, Bill. That's a lot.
It's a plateful. But, I always have to, sometimes when I'm feeling a little overwhelmed, and that does happen, I think I just simply sit back and say, well, I don't like to watch TV. I'm not really a kickback kind of guy, So what would I be doing? I mean, so why not? Why not just stay busy? I mean, stay busy, stay active, keep going. So I'd rather keep my plate full than to be wondering, what am I going to do next? It's really not complicated. It's just that I would just prefer. And, I don't have kids, and I don't really have a lot of hobbies. And so I think that plays into it too.
So let's go back a little bit in time, and, let's talk about the hair salon.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a pretty successful hair salon here in the Nashville area. You've been doing this
35 years.
35 years.
35
Wow.
years. Which is not, I've got friends that have been doing it 40, 45, 50, some 55 years. So I still got a ways to go to catch up with some of them. But
are you going to retire anytime soon?
No.
Okay, cool.
No, I don't. Not planning on it. I would like to be able to just keep adding to my, I guess, continue to diversify, and as long as I have time to do, the thing, because it's really, you hear that old cliche saying, oh, if you really love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And I think that's
true and it isn't.
It's true and it isn't. Like it's true because it doesn't seem like work. I mean, like I don't have to go and clock in on someone else's time clock and clock out and listen to, but I do have to listen to all of my, clients, and I have to listen to people who are paying your bills because, at the end of the day, those are the ones that, so when people say, oh, you don't have any bosses if you're self-employed, you have lots of, every client is your boss, so yeah, you have a lot of them.
So how'd you get started in this? When you woke up out of high school one day, you're like, I'm going to be a hairstylist.
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, it was when someone approached me about it. A longtime friend came to me. I had, for 10 years, I just kind of drifted around, floated around.
This is after high school?
Yeah. Did
you do college?
No, I didn't know that was an option. I was,
really?
No, I was told I had to move out when it was like 2 months, I guess a month before I graduated. My dad wanted to know when I was leaving, because that was what you did, right? You got out of school and you just got out of school and then you moved out of the house because he just wanted to know.
Time to go.
Yeah. I didn't know college was an option. I don't remember. I'm sure they did. I probably just wasn't paying any attention. I'm sure they talked to me about it in high school, but I was like, yeah, whatever. I was working full time for actually Long John Silver's.
Really?
Yeah, I liked it too. It was fun. We
in Columbia.
Yeah, we partied all the time, and that was all that life was about was party, right?
Yeah.
I didn't think about working. So we just
Long John Silver's.
Yeah. Oh, I loved it. Yeah. Yeah. We went there, and then after we got off from work, there'd be like party, and
sure.
So then I went from there. Someone approached me about the owner. His name is Tony Bastone. Approached me about coming to work for him at McDonald's, and I went and at first I said no, and then Tony kind of made me a counter offer and about coming to work for him, and actually he's definitely probably the first or one of the on a list of people who have been influential in my life.
Was there a stigma between Long John Silver's and McDonald's?
No, but there just McDonald's. Back then, McDonald's was like Chick-fil-A is now.
Gotcha.
And I would say, probably, I don't know if it is or not, but I mean, it's, constantly wrapped around the building. Mm-hmm. It was just swamped all the time. And I thought, I don't want to work that hard. That place is swamped. So then I ended up going to work there, and I loved it. And I loved the people there, and I especially admired Mr. Bastone. He was just an incredible businessman, and he gave me a lot of insight into business, about how business should be and how to work. I tell people all the time, if you don't really know what you want to do with your life, McDonald's is certainly an option. The military is an option. McDonald's is an option. McDonald's has a great management program. And I would assume that probably Chick-fil-A does also. They give you some structure, and some people, and especially at that point in my life, needed some structure, because without structure, you have chaos. And so that gave me some structure in my life. I needed that to be at work a certain time, get off at a certain time, whatever.
I had that conversation with my niece's husband. He didn't go to college. He was a mechanic, so he's turning wrenches, and though he loved cars, he just didn't want to do that forever.
Right.
And, I could tell he was a little frustrated. He was courting my niece and really, I think, getting a little serious, wanting to get married, that kind of thing. But I don't think he wanted to. He knew too that he would have to provide a lifestyle that would keep up with her.
Yep.
God love my niece, but he came to me and says, like, man, I don't want to keep doing this. And I said, have you considered joining the Army? And he said, well, maybe. I said, listen, if college isn't for you, because the one thing about college, I think, is, I don't think they tell you this, but college is that time of discovery. Mm. And I say the majority of people waste it, because they just either hit the party scene or they're in the Greek life, or they just don't apply themselves. They don't really tell you that college isn't going to give you anything but a receipt at the end of 4 years for the amount of money you put into it.
Right.
However, so that wasn't for him. He was never very good at education. I said, well, just consider the military. And he did. And because what he needed is what you said. He needed the structure. And structure is really important. Foundation is really important. I think that's something I like to talk about a lot, is how important fundamentals are.
I think that finishing high school, I encourage people to definitely finish high school because it shows that you can finish something. And I think that college is somewhat like that, it shows you can finish something bigger. But at the same time, I think you can go on and, anybody, I think at the end of the day, you can do anything you put your mind to. But there is a starting point. And I think the issue in going into any business is that we all want, there's a lot of planning that goes into it, and it takes a long time. And I don't think that a lot of people give themselves enough time. They don't have the patience. Maybe they just want too much too fast, or they want things to happen too fast. And an interesting statistic that always I found, people have to drive by your place 17 times. And this is an old statistic, so it may be more than that. But people have to come by your place 17 times before they ever even notice your sign. And that doesn't mean they come in. That just means that before they ever even know you're there. So I do think it takes a while for people to, and then you have to get them to return. You have to get them to stay with you and come and support your business. And I'm a big supporter of. I like supporting independent businesses because I don't necessarily. I could buy things anywhere, but I know that when I buy from an independent business owner, I know that it's feeding their family, it's putting gas in their cars, it's paying for their home. So that's kind of why I support independent businesses as much as I can.
So did you take the job at McDonald's?
Yes, I took the job at McDonald's. Yeah, I'm sorry, I got distracted.
That's okay.
And then from there, I ended up working there 3 years. And then 3 years. And then I decided I wanted to live in Florida. So then I moved to Florida.
Really?
And then I was just,
I don't think I knew that.
Yeah, I was just all over the place.
Where in Florida? Did you go to Miami?
It's funny. One time I went to Florida. A friend of mine called me up at 3 a.m. and said, "Hey, you want to go to Florida?" And I'm like, "Yeah, let's go. Where are we going?" He goes, "PCB, baby. Where else?"
Of course.
I'm like, "Okay." So we zipped down. My first time to ever go to Florida, I was 19 years old. And I just was like, I was in heaven. So then I had it in my mind, I want to work in Florida. So an opportunity came up through McDonald's to work in Florida. And, I'm just country boy, right? So Florida, like it's all the same, right? Florida. It's all Florida. So when I didn't even go down there, I just like, I want that job. I'm like, okay. So then I get in my car and I drive to a town in Florida called West Palm Beach, Florida.
Wow.
And I'm like, I get there and I find a place to live. I had no, there was no internet. There was no, that didn't exist.
Classifieds.
No. So I just had to go down there and stay with some friends for a couple of nights until I found a place to live. And actually, they were friends of friends. And so then I stayed there for a while. And then I ended up, I was working outside all day. Yes, my allergies are so tore up. So then we ended up, from there, that's when I discovered I think it was like 2 weeks before I went to the beach, and then I was horribly shocked because it wasn't white and sandy. And I'm like, what the heck is this? It's like rocks, pebbles. What is this? And then that's when I realized that there are different parts of Florida. So I did stay 2 years and worked it out and had a great time. Came back then I opened up another business. That was my dad encouraged me to buy this little country store, and I did, and I loved it.
Where?
It was in Mount Pleasant, Tennessee.
Really?
Yeah, I was very controversial at the time.
What do you mean controversial?
I was just a little out there. I was a little too much for that time.
A little liberal.
I was a little, well, no, I was a little on the wild side for that time.
Wow.
Yeah, I was a little before my time, but I had a great time.
So you say a country store, like a general store?
A little general market, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So I did that for a couple of years.
This is pre-lottery tickets.
Yeah, and then I sold that, and then I was offered a job with the Nashville Sounds baseball team.
Really?
Yeah. So I took that job, and it was great. And
what'd you do for the Sounds?
It was a concessionaire company called Sports Service, and they provide all the food service for the stadium at the time.
That's right, because you got your working start as the hot dog boy at the Columbia Drive-In, right?
This was at the Sundown Drive-In. Yeah, that was when I was in 12 years old. Yeah. So I've been actually paying into this stupid Social Security system since I was 12. So then I took the job at the Sound Stadium, and then I waited tables because I needed, some extra income. And then I did a couple other little odds and ends jobs. And then I ended up at this place called Rock Harbor Marina as a parts department runner, and then became the parts department manager. And then a friend of mine, and then we hit one of now my third recession I think I've lived through. But that was the first one that I can recall. And I was like, wow, that was tough. So when that happened, money stops flowing.
That was the early 90s?
No, mid 80s.
Mid-80s.
And the money stops flowing. It just, stops.
Mm-hmm.
Money stops. And nobody spends, nobody does anything. It just stops. And so luxury items like cars and boats and things like that, people don't buy. Mm-hmm. So I got laid off. Because there was no business. And a friend of mine said, why don't you go learn you should go, because I had said, I am ready to grow up, and I need to have a job that I can, really determine, I'm in control of my destiny. Like, in other words, no one else is going to be able to say, you're laid off. If I fail, it's no one's fault but my own. I can't blame anybody. I can't say I got laid off, I got fired, or whatever. If I don't succeed, it's my fault. So that's how I didn't want to do it. I was like, had no use. And so then he took me to this guy named John Nave, who had a school called John Nave School of Cosmetology, and I talked to John, and he just told me all the things, I guess, that he probably tells everybody. And of course, I believe everything anybody says. And so, but I did go to school, and I loved it. And I had, John was amazing, and his wife and daughter were at the school, and it was a great school. It's no longer there. John passed away. And, I did like it. I did like it. But then after I got out, I'll never forget the day I walked out of school, and I remember looking around, and all of a sudden I'm seeing salons everything, and I'm thinking, oh my God, how am I going to make a living doing this? There's salons everywhere. And it was the weirdest thing, because I had seen all these salons but never paid any attention. But then I get out. So then I thought, well, gosh, how am I going to make a living? There's hairdressers everywhere. And I thought, well, I guess I'm just going to have to be good at what I do. So then I started at the very first salon I ever worked at was Castner Knot in the mall at Bellevue.
Yeah.
And then I was there for 2 years, and then I went to J. Russell Salon. It was in the salon at Bellevue. And that's where I met, so I would say the third person so the first person was Anthony Dan Bastone, Tony Bastone. He was a big influence in my life. And the second one was John Nave. He was a big influence in my life. And then the third one would have been Russell Miller, and he owned J. Russell Salon, and he was the former president of Lord & Taylor's, and he had gotten into the salon business. And so I learned so much from him. And so then I stayed with him for 8 years, and then I bought that salon out. Then we moved it over to Belmead, and then from there we opened up a second location, and then we decided, we're going to close one of these locations down, and we moved over to Brentwood, opened that location up, and we've been there ever since. But so I would say that Russell was the third, one of the, and then from there, the next person would have been Irvin Rusk, and he's considered to be one of the world's 10 greatest hairdressers. And I actually got on part of his platform team and became an educator, and I learned a lot from him. So I have to fully give credit to everything that I know, obviously, from all the people that I've been surrounded by. I'm just, I think if you just do, I think it was, I can't remember which one told me, but said, if you just do what works, just don't make it complicated, just do what works. And I think it was John Nave that told me, if you will just do what works, if you will learn, I think it was like 8 or 9, if you'll just learn these 8 or 9 haircuts and you do them really well, if you'll just do what works, you will be successful for the rest of your life. And he said, don't try to reinvent the wheel, just do what works. But I do think in the course of doing what works, you do start kind of getting outside your zone a little bit. And then maybe you do kind of somewhat reinvent the wheel.
I think that's I always kind of equate that to sports, especially basketball, because I was a basketball player. You know, and you might see this in the music business, you know, but I think there is value when people say Michael Jordan and LeBron James. You know, Michael Jordan was an expert at the fundamentals, but you just didn't know it because he was so good at the game, so good at it. And not to say that LeBron James isn't, or any of these players are today, but the game is different. It's a different game. But I do believe if you have the fundamentals down pat, like you're saying, be good at these things, you know. And it took me 10 years of playing organized basketball to really understand the fundamentals of how to play. And once I did, then it was like, oh, this is fun. But by then it was over, you know.
Right.
But once you've mastered those fundamentals, you do, like you said, you do have this tendency. And if you have that, and I think that's the difference between having talent and having skills. Right. You know, skills are something you develop. You know, talent's something you're born with. And when those two come together, it's like you do create something very remarkable, something very unique. And I think that's a valid point, man.
Well, I think that I always think about the Dan and Shay hit 10,000 hours. Yeah, I think it was Dan and Shay and Justin Bieber. But anyway, you know, it is a, you know, the saying is if you have 10,000 hours, if you dedicate 10,000 hours, you become a master at it. And I do get tickled sometimes because I see these kids and they're getting out of school and I read their resume and it says master hairstylist. I'm a master hairstylist. I'm getting out of school and I'm a master hairstylist.
But traditionally, becoming a master, though, you had to do apprentice, right? And then you became a journeyman.
I think
that was an indie trade skill.
I don't know. I think somebody somewhere just said, you know,
just put it on your business card.
Yeah, I gotta have like a marketing niche. So I'm gonna call myself a master. You know, what's a good word at that, master? So I think that's where it came from. I have no idea, but you know, I do know that in the cosmetology industry, hairstylists are notorious for putting a name to something. You know, they want to give it a name, a signature name for a haircut or something that they do, so that if that person tries to stray somewhere else, then, you know, and they go in and ask for that, the other stylist says, I don't know what the heck you're talking about. I have no idea what you're talking about. When in essence, it's just a fade or a bob or a bowl haircut.
When you say they give it a name, like they give it to Nancy or like
yeah, they give it the signature name. You know, this is a, and I think
can you give me a bill?
Yeah, and I think the funny thing, like I know, like the term balayage, that's a term in our industry that people. So balayage is actually it is a technique. It is not. It is
a style.
Right. It is a technique, and it was developed. It means basically the term balayage means hand painted, and I've been doing that since 1990 something, right? Mm-hmm. And so then people, you know, I want to balayage highlight, and a lot of times people ask for it and they don't even know what they're asking for. They just know that they see the result and they go, that's a balayage, and they think that's actually the name of it, but it's actually the technique. And I see that a lot where, you know, ombre. You know, I remember I had to call a client up one day and I'm like, well, we got to change your hair color. This is like 2004, 2005. And I'm like, we got to change your hair color. She's like, why? And I said, well, because now your hair color has a name. She's like, it has a name? And I'm like, yeah, it has a name. It's called an ombre. She goes, what's ombre? And I'm like, that's your hair color. Okay, now it has a name. Like it's become popular. And she's like, well, and I had been, and the reason I've been coloring her hair this way for years was because she had very dark roots and she wanted to be blonde. So we had to create this way for her to be blonde on the ends and dark at the roots so she wasn't in my chair every 5 weeks. And so, but now, did I invent ombre hair color? No, I did not. I think what happens is that there are people all over the world that are facing similar problems and similar situations, and they have to come up with a solution for it. So who invented it? I don't know. who the heck
This
knows?
is all pre-YouTube, before you could get on YouTube.
Oh,
and
yeah.
like, hey,
There
show
was,
me,
there
you
was
know.
no, yeah, there was no YouTube, and there was no, and
But that's what you did at like stylist conventions, right? Or like at little trade
right,
shows.
right. When you
would
did,
say, you
right,
would showcase.
you would teach techniques,
Yeah.
and you would show people, new techniques and new trends, and usually those related to some kind of product that you had to buy, or some kind of scissor that you had to buy, or like some kind of something. And if you buy this product, you can do this technique. And so I used to, when I first got into being a platform artist, I was like, I'm
a rock star.
I'm a rock star. And then pretty soon, after years and years and years, you realize that you're nothing more than a glamorized salesperson. That's all you are. You're selling their products, And then once you figure it out, and then you realize after a while, you're like, oh, that's why a lot of people who do platform work are new stylists, because they're the only ones who really have time to do that, because the people who are really super busy behind the chair, like I don't know when, unless I guess some of these people have people who film all this stuff for them. I don't rarely put anything on social media. I don't have time.
I think most people, especially the big influencers, that was actually what I was going to ask you. Do you think if you'd have been born in today's generation, would you be an influencer?
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe, but you have to get that mindset. I mean, I do admire people who do it.
Well, you said you were a platform artist. You were showcasing product. You were showcasing for other companies.
Yeah.
You were getting paid for that.
Yeah.
Which is essentially what...
Hawking it.
Of course, today you've got to build your followers, and that's,
Right.
And I'm sure back in the day you drew an audience, or, people go, oh, well, Bill Vandiver is going to be over here at this convention. And,
right. And that was what it was.
He's wild, man.
Yeah. And I remember, I remember, Irvin was like that. People knew that Irvin Rusk was going to be doing a show. So, Irvin Rusk is going to be there. It was a big deal to get to see Irvin Rusk. And he was a phenomenal talent. I've had one great haircut in my life, and it was from Irvin Rusk. And it has never been reciprocated again. It's never been reproduced again.
Really?
No. And I can tell you, I'm like, that's why people's like, wow, why is
your hair now?
I don't get it cut because
I know
can't.
It's long, but before you used to have it cut, though. I remember it.
I used to cut it myself because every time I would go get a haircut, I would just be disappointed because it was never an Irvin Rusk haircut. Because Irvin cut my hair one time, and I was spoiled for the rest of my life because it was like such a great haircut. So then, you wish you could just take your head off and cut it yourself because you knew how he did it, but you couldn't explain it. And so I've had, I've had some good haircuts. I've had good, bad, and ugly and everything else. And I'm really not a big deal. But I got tired of cutting my own hair, so I just let it grow because I got tired of, I'm like, just so tired of cutting my hair. So I just said, I'm just going to put it in a ponytail and be done with it.
So what led up to hair extensions?
Well,
because that's kind of what you're known for around here, right? People come to you for the hair extensions.
In 1992, I did my first set of extensions on someone, and I just saw how it changed her life. Like it was, it was such a, she had heard about them, and they've been around forever. But typically in the ethnic market, the weaves and sews, you didn't see a lot of the white girls. You didn't see a lot of white girls wearing extensions, And I did. I had someone wanted to know if I did them, and I'm like, I don't, but I can. I'm willing to learn. If you're willing to learn, I'm willing. If you're willing to be patient with me and let me do it, I said, I think I can do it. So I dove into it, and at the time it was just sewing. You created the track and you sewed the track, and so I did that first set, and then I really kind of saw how it changed her life, and I was like, ooh. So then for several years I did that technique, and then I kept thinking, there's got to be something better. It's got to be something better. So then I began to search out throughout Europe and things like that, and I found other systems. And then I met another person that changed my life. His name was Richard Milstein. And Richard was bringing the system over to the United States, and it's called Extend USA. And he taught me how to do that system. And then so I took that system, and then you just get really, good. You just get really good at it. You just do it. But then you start embellishing that, how can you make it better? So then I went over to Europe and I met with manufacturers because I was like, what's on the market is good, but here's what's wrong with it. Like, as someone who does, I've installed well over 10 million hair extensions. And when you've installed that many, you start, realizing, you're like, okay, here's the flaws. Here's the problem. And then you're also able to pick stuff apart real quick and go, no, that's okay. I will tell you this. If somebody's wearing a set of any system and they like it, and they like it, then it's great for them. That's what I always tell people about hairstylists. If you've got one client who consistently comes back to you, she thinks you're the greatest hairdresser in the world. That's all you need. It's not. And so all these.
And she'll sell for you.
Yeah, and you you just need, you got to have obviously more than one of those. You got to have like 10 of those,
Yeah.
And or whatever. But if we get in this world where we numbers mean everything. And people ask me all the time, do you think you're a great hairdresser? No, I think I'm just Bill, just an average hairdresser. I think I do a good job. Do I think I'm the best hairdresser? No, the best is just perception. When people build themselves as the best, or this is the best, or this is the greatest, maybe to some it is, but not to everybody. There's no such thing. The best is just, there's no such thing as the best. It doesn't exist. The best is just the perception of the person who's seeing it. So, I never thought of myself as the best, or, I'm the great, whatever. I don't think about that. I just think about, I'm just providing a service, and I try to give people a good service at a good value, and more importantly, that is not damaging to their hair, So that's kind of how I got into the extensions, was finding better. So I went over to Europe and I went to a manufacturer and I'm like, okay, here's the deal. And
this is after you honed your technique and
and
been
I'm like,
through the process a lot.
Millions of times. And I'm like, okay, here's the deal. Here's the problem. And they agreed to sign like non-disclosures and non-competes, and so I gave them what needed to happen. So we did. We created that system, and then that system is now sold throughout the world, but is not sold here in the United States because actually that's my territory. And
what's the name of the product?
My product in my salon is called More Cheveux, which means more hair. And is that
fancy?
I know. And that was just like, at the time I thought, oh, but I don't know. Because at the end of the day,
sometimes it's simple as best.
It's just simple. More hair. People just want more hair.
Sure.
That's all they really want. They just want a little more hair. They either because it's thinning, or they want it longer, or whatever.
And so the German company has a license to produce it and sell it to the rest of the world.
They do to the rest of the world, but they can't sell it here in the United States because that was kind of the agreement, was that you could sell it to the rest of the world, but you can't sell it here. Because I may want to one day I've never sold the line here in the United States. I have a few friends I sell to and people like that, but I've never done the line here in the United States because one day when I have some time, I may do that.
Well, here's the thing. It's you think about this. You're a self-proclaimed country boy from Middle Tennessee, and here you are going to Europe and creating your own product line, which is something you think, oh, that's somebody out of New York would do that. It's like, what was that experience like to go, all right, I'm going over here to Europe, and probably at this point you'd probably been in the business long enough that it may not have been a big transition, but if you're talking about perception, you're from the outside looking in, and I'm thinking, man, sometimes when you look at places like New York or Europe or something, I'm gonna go up here and do something. It's like you might as well be flying to the moon. Because it seems so nebulous. And then sometimes when things are so out of reach, you're like, am I even going to try? Like, I'm like, how'd you get that brain idea?
I think that, I think in our
Was it
mind,
scary?
our minds make it more complicated than it really is. I think, fear of failure. Oh, this might fail. This might not work. Whatever. It may not. May not. I mean, I keep everything very simple. I live extremely simple. I give the majority of my money away. I don't need it. I don't want it. It just causes problems, and and the reason it causes problems for some, not too much money. I have a lot of clients that just could have anything, and they just seem like they're always looking for something else, and they're always searching for something else, and I just didn't give it away and help somebody else, and I mean, I'm fine. I don't need anything else. At the end of the day, I always tell people, ain't nobody getting out alive. I don't know what you're saving it for, because I mean, the last I checked, ain't nobody getting out of this game alive.
So this wasn't a big stretch for you to go do this. This was like,
no,
just seemed like the next logical step.
Yeah, it was a need. There was a need. I was like, there is a need. So I think you have to have that need. There has to be a need. And for me, it was a need for me. I wanted something
It turned out it was a need for a lot of people.
Right. And what was funny was this is long before. Now, there are a lot of products on the market now that are very similar to what I went to Europe and created back in 2008 or 9. And there's a lot of products out there like that now. They're very similar. And because in 2005, I mean, you could count on your hands how many people were like really, doing, like I was the only, I don't want to say I was the only, and I don't even know the correct PC terms, but I was definitely only, one of the only white boys in town doing hair extensions, Right. And when I say the white boys and the black girls and the, I mean, I'm friends with all those, people. I'm friends with everybody. I mean, I don't care what color somebody's skin is, or
Sure.
We're just all people. We're all here together, and so. But now I will tell you, I follow on social media. I follow a lot of the black girls because they and a few of the black guys, but the black girls are so creative. Oh my gosh, they're like geniuses at hair extensions, and they're always coming up with something new and something different, and they're trying to problem solve and create a solution to something. And I'm just amazed at the artistry, level of artistry. It's phenomenal. It's incredible. It's like watching a magician. I love watching them.
I think I heard somebody say this one time. If you want to start a business, find a need.
Yeah, and that's the thing that was with me. I needed a need. There was a
because people who start like boutiques,
and initially there just wasn't. I mean, my clients are predominantly Caucasian women with very fine textured hair, a European style of hair, with slight body to it, and they're just all the extensions that were out there at the time were made with either Chinese hair, Indian hair, and that hair is very different than European grade hair. So I needed to find a product that replicated. So then once I found that system, then we needed an adhesion technique, how to get it into the hair. And I'm still always looking for something. Do I think we found the best way? No, not yet. No, we're close. I don't know that you'll ever find the best way because technology and everything always kind of brings new things into the game. But you have to always look at, what's the possibility of damage, because you certainly don't want to go from wearing extensions because you want to wearing extensions because you have to. Not that you would ever have to, but you don't want to damage the hair. So you're always looking at like the least non-invasive system. So that's kind of how I got started in business. In that business there was a need. I personally had a need. I could have. One day I may market that line. I just don't have time right now.
You're busy.
Well, yeah, I do think you've got to be willing to commit to the time. You've got to be willing to. You've got to have the time to commit to it, and you have to know because I've got a dog that I absolutely love, and I've got 2 rabbits that I absolutely love, and I've got the salon, and I've got that responsibility, and I've got a mom, an aging mom, and I try to spend as much time as I can. She'll be 87 this year, and so I try to spend as much time as I can because I know that she and I want to get down and spend time with her. And and then you've just got life's responsibilities. You've got the yard, and now, yes, I could pay people to do a lot of those things, right? But I actually enjoy that. I actually enjoy getting out, and I moved 7 ricks of firewood yesterday.
Wow.
Yeah, I like it. I mean,
keeps you active.
Well, yeah. I mean,
I watched a documentary not so long ago about blue zones. Areas of the world where people, a lot of people in that area live to be over 100. And the documentary kind of listed things from each specific area, and then he sort of added them all up and created like 4 very specific things. And one of those main things was staying active, and it wasn't so much going to the gym. It was in this one country, island in Italy, I believe it was. To go to the market, they had to go up a hill. So they were constantly moving, or they were having to chop wood or do things. But the more active they stayed, obviously,
right.
And the rest of it was diet. And
you got to
keep,
you got to keep moving. I mean, you got to keep moving, and you think about it as a kid. When you're a kid, like
always going.
You're always going. You're always playing. You're always moving. You're always jumping. You're always running. You're always like go, 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 go. And then you get older, you kind of start slowing down a little bit. So I go to the gym 3 to 5 times a week. I'm in there. No more than an hour, but
right.
Usually 30 to 45 minutes. But then on Sundays, which is my like chore day, what am I going to tackle? Like next week, I'm tackling a fence.
Oh,
I'm replacing some fencing. So, some wood fencing. So I went and bought all the stuff this week. So I always have to kind of, I have a reminder on my phone to get all my project stuff by Thursday. So because if you wait till Sunday, you spend half your day getting your stuff,
Efficiency.
Yeah. So you have to get your stuff on Thursday and Friday so that when it comes Sunday, you've got everything.
You're ready to go.
You're ready to go. So you don't have to go and stay 3 hours. Because when I go to Lowe's, it's just like a playground, and you're like, ooh, look at that. Ooh.
Just buy tools for the sake of buying tools.
Exactly. So then you start seeing all that stuff. So then next thing you know, half your day's gone. So you don't get your projects done. No. So you got to plan. So you got to strategy.
You got to take a nap.
Yeah. So I go, I like on Wednesday, if Wednesday is Publix, and then what I don't find at Publix, Thursday is Whole Foods. And then what I don't find Thursday at Whole Foods, Friday is Kroger. And then Thursday, Friday is Lowe's or Home Depot to get those supplies to do the weekend project on Sunday. And that's all if I'm not on the road with Adam Warner.
Which is my next thing.
Oh, yeah.
Adam Warner. At some point in all of this chaos of running your hair salon full-time, at one time there was 2, full-time running a hair salon, creating your own product line with hair extensions. I was here for this. I remember pre-Adam Warner. I remember you going, the phrase that sticks out the most, Tommy, I just want to make some mailbox money.
Yep, that's right. That's right. Mailbox. Well, and that's because Tracy Hackney, my financial planner, he kept saying, you got to get some mailbox money coming in. He goes, why don't you buy some investment property? I'm like, oh, man, I don't want to do that. I don't want to. I mean, it's definitely, I encourage everyone to do it. Right? But it just wasn't for me because I kept visualizing myself. There's that Murphy's Law. If it can happen to anybody, it's going to happen to me. So if there's the story I keep seeing all over the news, and I just won't dive into the story about the lady who's living in a house somewhere and she won't get out. And it's like a
she's squatting.
Yeah, she's squatting. Okay, that would be me.
Yeah.
I would get the squatter. Right? It would just happen. So I'm like, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to deal with the renter. And then on top of that, the maintenance and I don't think I want to commit to that.
Yeah.
So I needed a different way to do the mailbox money. And so I thought, I'll just develop a country music artist.
Because why not, right?
Why not? I mean, well,
but to be clear, you've had a lot of connections in the entertainment business. I mean, you've worked with the Titans cheerleaders for years.
Yes.
And then you've done a lot of the music festivals. This was not like an unknown.
No, it wasn't an unknown
country that you went
territory, right?
into.
And I've worked with a lot of celebrities through the years, and I've seen it. And I don't ever talk about their names because I'm not affiliated with them. So I don't want to be on here going, oh, I've done this and I've done that.
Sure.
Because, sometimes it was just like, come over here, you've got a flat spot in the back of your head and you fluff their hair. And then, some people will be like, oh, I did her hair. Well, yeah, I fixed a flat spot in the back of her head, but I didn't really do her hair,
Right.
But I have met pretty much, I always tell people there are very few celebrities in Nashville that my hands have not been in their hair.
Wow.
And
That's a cool line on the resume.
right. So, but they, and it could just be a fluff, like a little fluff. But anyway, so I've been around the industry for a long time and as a hairstylist, and I had just observed from the background. Mm-hmm. But I will tell you what I observed did not prepare me for what I have encountered.
Wow.
It's a whole, and that industry changes by the minute. And I think it's in a little bit of a chaotic mess right now because TikTok is kind of the name of the game right now, and nobody can predict TikTok, and nobody knows really what's going on, and it's a Chinese company, and so, we don't really have a lot of, I think our government doesn't have a lot of control over it, and they can't really pull strings, maybe. I don't know. It could be I'm just guessing, I don't know. But, so you can't predict what's going to take off on TikTok. You just can't predict it. And so it's all over the place. And then technology, streaming certainly changed. I do think people still need major labels. If superstars need and I think for nothing more than to orchestrate their lives, because I know even like our little bitty platform that we have right now, just our little bitty, trying to get off the ground, there are so many players in the game. And I remember when I was one of those players in the game, like the hair guy, right? And I would be like, oh, why do they need all these people? They've just got people you got people to bring you water, right?
Yeah.
But saying that jokingly. But then now that I'm on the other side of it, I realize that, there's the publicist, there's the digital media person, there is
Distribution.
There's
companies.
the distribution company. Then there are those people who, the advertising, the graphic artists. Then you got to have, it goes on and
Public
on and on.
relations,
Yeah, it goes on. So I remember one of my rather large country music artists telling me one time that he had 85 people on his payroll, and I used to be like, what? But then you got bus drivers. And
road managers,
and road managers, and band leaders, and you got band members, and you've got and then you got people to maintain your bus. Who's going to maintain your bus? And people who's going to keep that, and that's a big expense. And we do not have one of those. We rent them occasionally, but we are not at that level. And I've been and I kind of go back and forth in my mind about that. Like when we get to that point, are we going to get one? And then I'm like, I would really like to try to find a solution to that, because I think that is a lot of money.
The bus.
Yeah, and it's everybody likes rolling in big. Everybody likes rolling big. It's nice, but man, it's a lot of money. And so you got to figure out how can you roll big. And a lot of it's image. I think a lot of it's comfort and image. It is nice. I'm not going to lie. I love sitting back there having somebody drive me.
Yeah.
It's
great.
It's great. You roll in, you're refreshed, you feel great. But man, dude, is it expensive?
Yeah.
So if you could figure out like some way to, roll in comfort like that without all that expense, because they're high to maintenance and they're very expensive. So I've learned a lot. And I've been, and I told, I didn't really, I thought in the beginning I was just going to be networking. Like, okay, I'll introduce you to people that I know.
Right.
But then I quickly learned not to do that because I learned that I was putting my clients on the spot. So I'm like, ooh, don't do that, because then they don't want to come see you, right? Because then they're like, oh, he's going to ask me a favor. And, and so I didn't want, I'm like, nope, no. I don't. So if they ask me how things are going, I always tell them, but I don't want to say I don't ask them I may ask their advice. I do ask my clients advice, but I don't ask them for favors.
Sure.
Because that puts them on the spot. And I learned that real quickly. So now the majority of our dealings occur with people that I have met, through, growing.
Right.
Growing.
Yeah.
Like, but like I said, I get a lot of advice from very well-known people in the business.
How does that translate to the advice you got from your mentors?
Wow.
Because sometimes advice is only as valuable.
That's exactly right. And I do. Well, here's what I have learned about the music industry. And I said I was going to start a consulting fee. I already have my tagline. You ready?
Yeah.
Yeah. Pay me $1,000, I save you $1 million. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that's my advice. But what I have learned is that there is no one way, and there is no one right way or wrong way. It is the way you make it. And everybody seems to get there a very different way. And that's okay. And I think that's kind of true with everything in life. I think everybody gets there their own way. And at the end of the day, if you're happy, then you have achieved success. That's it. If you're happy, I live in 1,200 square feet. I drive 12-year-old cars. I give a lot of money away. I help a lot of people. And at the end of the day, I'm happy about that, And so that's okay. And so that's all that matters. It's not about what I'm wearing or what I'm driving or where I'm living or anything like that. What I have is, what do you leave behind? What do you leave behind? And I remember a long time ago, someone said, you can always judge a person's character by the number of people that show up at their funeral. And that has always stuck with me. Like, I remember my dad, we were just working people. My dad drove a truck for a living. And there were so many people that came to my father's funeral. And I didn't even know a third of them. And, but the stories, oh, your dad was such a great man. Your dad would help me out anytime. Your dad was such a good guy. Boy, your dad. I didn't know half these people were. And he influenced, or he helped people.
Right.
And he just helped people. Like, he would help find them things, get them things, give them things, any way he could. And we were. I mean, there were 5 of us in a 2-bedroom trailer. So,
I remember when I was still in Georgia, I'd gone to a Chamber of Commerce event, and Dan Cathy from Chick-fil-A was speaking because he's a local guy there, and it was it was good. The lecture was good, but as we were leaving, I shook his hand and said, "Hey, I really enjoyed your lecture or your speaking, whatever." And I was like, I'm going through a tough time with my business stuff right now, and just any advice? And he says, just show up in service of others. And my first reaction was, what?
Yeah.
What's that supposed to mean?
Yeah.
So that didn't help. Then I've thought about it over the years and thought about it, and it's like, it's true. It's like when you're in those times when it's hard,
Yeah.
your first gut reaction is, help me.
Right.
I need help. Somebody help me. And there's some truth to that, but the reality of it is, the person you're going to count on the most, especially in your business, is yourself.
Right.
And sometimes the best way to get traction, which is the hardest part about running any business, is to be there for other people.
Right.
Right.
And I told Adam, I've told him multiple times, I said, I can't tell you what's going to happen. I have no idea. Nobody knows. I mean, we can, but we just chip away at it, right? I said, but I can tell you for a fact what will happen if you quit. Now that I can tell you. If you quit, I can tell you for a fact what's going to happen. Nothing. That I know for certain, nothing will happen. But you just keep chipping away at it, and then you'll find that level of success that you're comfortable with, And so I did want to clarify that, because I sound like a millionaire when I say I give a lot of money away. I give a lot of time away. I give some money away, and I give a lot, because I don't.
Which is more valuable?
Yeah, and I don't, and I give a lot of time. I spend a lot of some of my favorite clients are the really young ones. I get a lot of the young boys and girls that come in, and I love hearing their story. I think kids today are so phenomenal. I think people are like, oh, they're so lazy. They don't want to work. They don't. They do. They'll do anything. They want to be successful. They don't really. They don't have life's experiences the way we did. Unfortunately, I think there are sometimes a little loss, but they're. The ones that I deal with are great kids, and they want to make a difference in the world, and they want to have adventures. They want to do things, though, a little differently, and hey, what's wrong with that? Because who says we did it right? They want to see the world. They want to go. They want to do. They don't want to work their lives away. And you know what? I don't think that's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all, because I think I grew up, like I always just wondered, like, who in the heck invented this 40 hours a week? Who said we have to work 40 hours a week? Who said
was that Industrial Revolution?
Yeah, who said that? And and so I do think that again, we live in this world of where the carrot's always dangled in front of you, and I got to have this and got to have that, and want to have this and want to have that, and so then to get that you got to work, and work takes time, and you're going to get paid, but so I love hearing I love when the young kids sit in my chair and they tell me their stories and stuff like that, and then I always try to leave them with a little bit of wisdom, or like something, and something that they think about. Give them something to think about, in a fun way, like something that they, like because I'm amazed sometimes how smart they are. Are very smart.
They're smart in a way that is different.
They're smart in a way that's very different, and they do want to do things, and they, occasionally I've got a young man that comes and helps me with projects. Mm-hmm. He wasn't available yesterday when I hauled all that firewood, but he was actually, what he was doing? He was at home, chipping off the popcorn off his ceiling, because I had for years and years and years, and not because I told him to, he wanted to, but I encouraged him to buy his own home. So he did, and he was home working on his project. But when he's not doing that, he helps me with stuff, and so I do admire that. I love listening to them. I love hearing their stories. I love hearing their ideas, like what makes them tick, and like what do they think. So, but going back, I think that's a whole nother avenue of just. So I wanted to clarify on that, though, when I say I give a lot of money away. I do give money away, but I'm not like a multimillionaire or nothing like that.
So. Well, so let me ask you this, and what's your biggest lessons for those out there that may be interested in, because here's the thing, I think people don't understand about people like you, people like me, I didn't have this path where, like my brother, who, picked a job and he stuck with that job, and that's the job he's been doing for 25 years. Mm-hmm. I was like, I've got more W-2s than I can even remember half the time, and it sounds like, that's where you were. You like, I tried this and I tried this and I went down here and did this, and, I've lived in 5 states and 3 major cities, and it's like,
right.
It's very, it's a lot,
Yeah.
And so with people who they may not know where to jump, they may not want to go do that big office job. They may not want to go to college. I mean, what's your wisdom, Bill? What's those pearls you're going to leave behind for those?
Well, I think that's the thing is what's the purpose of what you're doing? Is it something that you're very passionate about? Do you feel like there's a need for it? you know, I jumped a lot of times before I thought. And I think you need to think before you jump. And then at the same time, you know, not everything's for everybody. You know, I mean, I've got clients who work the Monday through Friday 9 to 5 grind, and sometimes I'm so envious of them because I'm like, wow, you know, you get vacations, you get weekends off, you get paid health insurance. Some of them do, you know what I mean? There's perks. There are pros and cons with everything, and that is something that people need to always kind of keep in mind, is that there is no plus without a minus. There is no yin without a yang. There is no pro without a con. There is there is balance. That is the balance. So to say that this is euphoria, well, no, because you know, euphoria is what you make it. You know, perfect is what you make it, you know. So is my life perfect and what I do is no. It's just that because there's just, for everything that's perfect about it, there's things that are imperfect about it.
Right.
And so I think that you have to go into it with that mindset of knowing at the end of the day, am I going to be able to make, if you're going into it to make a living, you know, or you're going into it to make a hobby, like I have clients who have little consignment stores at antique stores.
Right.
And it's a hobby, and they love it. And I said, do you make any money at that? And they're like, no, but I just have such a good time. Okay, well, that's all that matters, you know? And even if you're doing it, let's say you're doing something and you're not making money. Maybe you're even losing money, right? But you love it. And you're changing someone's life. And it's not killing you, you know, like in other words, you're losing money. People talk about, you know, oh, well, you know, you can't stay in business if you lose money. Well, if you're making more at something else and you're losing at something else and you're having fun doing it, hey, knock yourself out. I mean, you know, what difference does it make? But I think, you know, how is it benefiting, you know, are you helping other people? You know, but I think you have to ask yourself a lot of questions. And I think a lot of people think that they're going to go into business for themselves, and they're going to do it because they're tired of their boss, or they're tired of this, or they're tired of that. And I'm like, well, trust me, for everything that you're tired of, you're going to have that same thing at something else. You know, There is no, I mean, and then it's like, oh, I just wish I was rich and I didn't have to work. Well, then you're going to be bored. You know, and then you're probably going to get into something trouble. Yeah, you're going to get into something you shouldn't be into, because you need that structure and discipline.
Right.
And so fortunately, that's the beauty of being behind the chair and being very booked. I mean, I typically see anywhere from 8 to 15, I should say anywhere from 4 to 15 clients a day. You know, 15 is an extreme rarity. That's like everybody's getting a haircut.
Right.
But you hear all these stories. You know, you hear all these people telling you all these stories. And I feel that's a blessing, because I get to, you know, because when you hear their stories, you're like, oh, well, my life isn't so bad.
Well,
and I will say this, above everything else.
You're talking about people with it that actually have money.
Yeah.
You know,
they have a lot
you
of
listen
money.
to their stories, you're like.
Some do, some don't. But, you know, at the end of the day, at the end of the very day, this coming from a cancer survivor, at the end of the day, if you have your health, you have it all. That's it. I don't care. That's my new. I just literally, this thought just ran through my mind. If you have your health, you have your wealth. I'm telling you, there's nothing more important than your health. That should be the most important thing in your life, is your health and your happiness. But if you have your health, there's nothing else that really matters. And I actually ended up kind of parting ways with the publicist, because he's a great guy and he did a great job, but he was intense. And I don't do intense well, not after cancer. You know, stress, just me personally, there's no documented evidence of this whatsoever. Or there may be, I don't know. But I think stress plays a big part of cancer. I think it weakens your immune system. I think it weakens your body. And so I think staying happy helps you, because I was not happy. I was in a very bad place. You wouldn't know I was in a bad place.
Right.
I looked like I had it all together, but I was not in a good place. And so that was the worst and the best time of my life, was going through cancer in 2012. And I don't ever want to do it again, but I'm so thankful for that experience. And so I have a lot of friends right now because I have a lot of people that I know that are going through, cancer, medical issues. And man, if you think for 1 second you're having a bad day, or you think that life is tough, go find yourself a friend that has an illness. And they would give anything to trade places with you.
My friend Pete just had esophageal cancer, caught it early, which was good. So they did the surgery and were able to get it out. But, the recovery was pretty intense because he had a hole. It took like 3 big surgeries to kind of get that situated. And he spent, I would say, 8 weeks just laying in bed at the hospital.
Yeah.
And I think I finally had gotten back down to Atlanta, and I went over to see him, and and of course he's super appreciative just to, see a friend,
Mm-hmm.
But the first thing I noticed when I saw him was like, I thought I was gonna walk in, my friend's gonna look like ragged, but the guy looked healthier than I've seen him in looking a long time, and like I looked at him and said, man, you look great, like you look younger, like you look rested,
yeah,
and it's like, and the thing was he hadn't eaten in 8 weeks. He hadn't swallowed water or eaten solid food in 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And he has been resting. All he's done is sleep. And as I thought about it, I thought, man, the guy's hasn't eaten anything. So he hasn't eaten any garbage, 2, he's like taking time out of his busy life to just rest.
Yeah.
Rest. And how important rest is.
Yeah.
And
I guard that. I guard my sleep time.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, man, that's like my favorite time. Sauna time.
Sauna time.
Sauna time, man. Every night.
Oh man.
Yeah. 30 minutes to an hour every night. Sweat it out.
Wow.
And I'm like, and that's every night. Like every night. 365 days unless we're on the road. And then I have a portable sauna that we take on the road. And
you have a sauna at the house?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I do. And I sweat it out every night. It's great. And sleep time, man, those are like, you just got, because that's like your time. And everybody's different. Some people are like, I'm like I don't know. It's weird. I do a little struggle with that a little bit. Like, how much should I sleep? Because I find that if I sleep too much, I feel terrible.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I'm a 6 to 7 hour sleeper.
Okay.
I think that seems to be like I wake up, but then every once in a while you've slept 7 hours and you're like, oh, I want to sleep some more. And then you sleep more and then you feel terrible all day long. And I don't know, it's just like, maybe it's like,
I don't know. I think some of that's environmental here, It depends like what's going on.
Yeah.
And I like to get 8 hours if I can.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 6, but I can tell a difference between.
It's funny because I love,
and I'm big on power naps.
yeah, I love, I love, Nashville and Tennessee and everything. But man, I will tell you, I love the weather in LA, and I wouldn't want to live there, especially now, all the chaos and maybe the people who live there, they probably, I'm sure some love it, some don't. But I just, man, you can't beat that weather.
It's great.
It's just incredible.
Yeah.
And I used to find that when I went to LA, I was so at peace. Now I haven't been in many years.
Yeah.
So I don't know that I would have
a hot minute either.
Yeah, I don't know that I would feel that way now. I don't know. Maybe I would, maybe I wouldn't.
Well,
I don't know.
I think weather environment plays a lot into your mental health
Yes.
and emotional health. I know I lived in Eastern Kentucky, and it's gray a lot there. And I get those that seasonal affective disorder. That stuff's real, man.
Yeah.
And so, you got to hit a tandem bed during the winter months, because like you just got to have some UV rays. But that's a thing, man.
Yeah, it is. Have you ever been to Alaska?
I haven't.
Well,
I don't know if I could do the whole.
Yeah, I know. I did. I've been there multiple times.
Yeah.
And
I know it's beautiful there, but
it's gorgeous there. But I don't know that I can do the winter. I don't know that I could do the winter.
Which is dark. Most.
Yeah, and it's apparently we have a lot of that up in the United States too. Like you get real far north, and it's very the daylight's very limited. Like up in your real extreme northern states.
I don't think a lot of people realize this, but when you live in the Central Time Zone, in the winter months it gets dark around 4:30.
Yes,
and that when I lived in the Eastern Time Zone, and that's just like that's in Kentucky, right? It's darker later, and that whole hour. I remember people from the Eastern Time Zone going. Man, I don't know how you guys do it over there. It's like it's dark at 4 o'clock.
And oddly enough, I know this sounds really weird, but I always said to people, I'm like, I seem to function better on the Pacific time zone.
It's weird. It is weird.
Yes.
You do seem to be more active.
Yes.
For whatever the case.
When Vegas or Arizona or out to California, I seem to function better on a Pacific time zone. I don't know why. But I do.
I think it's just, I don't, that'd be something to look up, but I don't know. There is a thing about that. I remember being a lot more active because of just the time zone difference. Right. I think it's where the sun comes up, the sun goes down, blah, blah, blah.
And I think too, that changes as we get older too.
Sure.
I have to push myself harder. I mean,
used to sleep late. I used to be a late sleeper.
Yeah.
Now I'm definitely an early riser.
Oh, me too. And I do think
mostly because I feel like I'm wasting the day.
I feel like I'm wasting the day. If I sleep past 7 a.m., I'm like, I have wasted the day.
If I'm 20 minutes past my normal wake up time, I'm like, my whole morning's off.
Yeah, it's off. My whole day's off. If I sleep in, and I feel like I've wasted the day. But I do feel like that as you get older, as I've gotten older, and everybody's different, but I do feel like I've heard that as you get older, you don't need as much sleep. I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know. I don't know if there's any medical science to that.
I don't know.
I just think, and again, I think we're all individuals, and to each their own. Everybody functions their own way. Everybody's got their own thing.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if you're just contributing to society and you're helping people out and you're not harming anyone, then hey, knock yourself out. But and you're not like. I think, not to be political, but you're not imposing your beliefs on other people that you're right and they're wrong. And, I think you can't be that way because what works for one does not work for everybody.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, I got to wrap up here. I actually got to open this little store up. So.
Yeah, I know.
But,
got to make some money.
I appreciate you coming, taking time out of your busy life and coming down and just talking with me. I think there's some value, whole lot of value in your experiences. And I definitely want to plug, if you never heard of Adam Warner, check out Adam.
Please do.
He's close. He's getting close. And this has this is not just something you started last year. You've been doing this a while.
Right. We are on year 8 going into year 9.
Yeah, almost
and,
a decade.
And everybody's like, it's a 10-year town. It's a 10-year town. And I can tell you that in our case, I think that's going to be true, and that's going to be the case. But there are some people that it was a 16-year town. There's couple superstars that it was a 15 and 16-year town. So, but yeah, he's doing more writing, and big excited about to have a baby, and he and his wife are about to have a baby, and and then still got the salon going, and I've got a couple of staff there. It's very difficult right now. To find stylists. More people are interested in chair rental. And so, but I just read an article that said from one of the salon publications that there's going to be a big turn in 2024 and people are going to want to go back to salon culture. And salon culture, meaning that, there's multiple people working in the salon, clients. I know we still have that. We never moved away from that. The pandemic happened, and we never moved away from that. We certainly went down from 9 stylists to 4 stylists. But, and I'm not looking to hire, but I'm not looking to hire. Like if the right person came in and they fit the culture and they want to mesh in with everybody, that's great. But their clients really enjoy the community. Like they come in and they talk with other people.
They like the vibe.
Yeah, they like that.
That's something I've noticed in the salon in the years. The vibe's a little different.
Yeah, because people like talking to each other and they like, chit-chatting with each other and they like that, versus just being and not to say that people don't like going into a room and being in a room one-on-one with the stylist. Tremendous more pressure to entertain or host that client. But I work a lot by myself now, especially if I have to go in on a off time or go in late or early or on a day, whatever. And I enjoy that too. Like I was there last Monday. I had to work last Monday because I had to be off Tuesday to go do a thing with Adam. And I worked all day by myself, and it was nice. I enjoyed it. So I like I like both.
Yeah, well, if you're ever in the Nashville area or looking for a stylist,
well, get on the list.
Get on the list.
Get on the
trust
list.
Me, you got to put it in there.
Weeks.
Weeks.
And that's there was a lady yesterday. She's been waiting.
But I will say this. Bill's always willing to accommodate. It's never a no. It's always let me see.
Let me see what I can do.
And it may be a no, but it's not an immediate. I ain't got time for it. But
absolutely.
And that's a great way to run, run things.
I mean, I really have, unless somebody dies or moves, I don't really have much spots.
It really is. There's only one Bill.
That's right. I mean, there's just so many hours in a day, and I've got, and I'm kind of playing that beer because Adam's career is continuing to grow, and his music, Adam Warner, AdamWarnerMusic.com. You can find him on all social media platforms. Yep. And we got a big release coming out called First Face, and I'm so excited about it because it's about, it's a song he wrote for his wife. And
that's the one you showed me.
It's about it's about that whole process of meeting the girl of your dreams, and then your family coming into play, starting a family, and it's going to be a phenomenal video project and a phenomenal single, and I'm so excited about that. And then we've got 3 great new songs already lined up for release in January, probably February, March, something like that.
And what are those social medias?
Adam Warner Music. Everything is Adam Warner Music. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, website, Adam Warner Music. Bands in Town is my favorite platform. Yeah, because you can actually just go on there and follow in Bands in Town. And here's the other thing. And whether it be Adam Warner or anybody else, your favorite artist, follow them on Spotify. A lot of people don't realize that you can follow artists on Spotify. And let me tell you, following, if you really, really, really want to help an artist out, there's 2 things you can do. Follow them on all platforms. On, Instagram, Facebook, Bands in Town, SoundCloud, everything you can follow them on, follow them. Second, buy their merchandise.
Love it.
And then third is stream their music. So follow.
Music is the third thing, guys.
Yes. I know. Isn't that crazy?
That's crazy.
Yeah. So buy their merchandise because that keeps them on the road.
Correct.
And stream their music. And, and share it. Share it with all your friends because, that 6 degrees of separation, I think now is about 4 because of social media.
Yeah.
So share, if you find something that you're passionate about, you remember these are young people. These are people, not all young. But this is their passion.
Right.
And, this is what they want to do. So sharing it with people is a great way of helping them.
Well, Bill, I certainly appreciate you taking the time out, bud. Going to wrap this up today. And, man, I guess I'll see you in the trenches.
Yes.
Here in a few weeks.
Yeah. We will.
All right, bud.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.
I hope somebody takes something away from this.
Yeah, I think so. Some nuggets, man. There are definitely some pearls of wisdom.
Okay, I hope so.
All right, man.
All right.